gonna tell you something. I'm Star-Lord. I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
Oh, please. He left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
What's going on, world? It's your boy, Kuya P. This is the NRW Nerds Rule the World, breaking down Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 from Marvel Studios. I guess I'm your official Star-Lord in this one, captain of the ship, but let me introduce my pals, my squad. First up, I want to say she's my Nebula, but when we were recording this earlier, she was acting like Gamora, like she didn't know what was up. But it's my pal, Heather Hurt. How are you, Heather?
Hi.
You came through with the Gamora energy. All right, gave me mad Gamora energy, but it's all love.
She's a dick.
I still love Gamora. And of course, the Drax of my ship, Mr. Glenn Lawrence, the brother that levels us up. How are you, Glenn?
I'm good. But I do want to be the Rocket sometimes, or maybe even the Mantis, because I'm all about the love.
You know what I'm saying? Mantis I love her energy, especially in this film. So we're going to talk all about Guardians of the Galaxy. My man Glenn Lawrence is going to lead us off. Let's go, Glenn.
You guys have been there before. This is Volume 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're following our mercurial space travelers who are, they're tasked with, they even got new outfits and everything. They're tasked with saving the galaxy or guarding the galaxy, and they're back again, man. And I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed what this film brought to the whole series. It was a great way to kind of wrap up this iteration of the Guardians and their travels. As you guys know, directed by James Gunn, of course, Zoe Saldana, Chris Pratt, all the Dave Bautista. Got to give the shout outs to all the great characters and cast. And it's way too many to name, but I think they do an incredible job this time. I had a lot of fun with it. I was very, very nervous because going into the film, I thought that there was going to be some emotional moments, and I didn't know if I was ready for it because the first two films had me crying. I don't know about y'all, but the first two films, did you shed a tear during the first two installments of Guardians of the Galaxy ever?
Of course, definitely
Yes.
felt it. But I'll say my thoughts later. But yes, of course.
So, even
with this one, bring the tissues. Bring the tissues.
Now, this one does follow Rocket a little bit more. So I felt like the first two films, you got a little bit into Star-Lord, obviously, with the first one, as he's kind of the ringleader somewhat of the first Guardians. And the second one was Nebula and Gamora kind of get into their story, still following Star-Lord a little bit, but bringing in the new characters. And then this one, you really, really get into Rocket's backstory, which I thought is just, it was a great, fun, heartbreaking, heartwarming, of course. But it was a really great time. There's introduction to new characters, and we get to meet the High
Evolutionary.
The High Evolutionary. What a name, right? The High Evolutionary. That's as pretentious as the character is, you know what I'm saying? But we're traveling around the galaxy trying to avoid the destruction that the High Evolutionary is enacting upon the worlds with which he creates. But yeah, this installment was incredible in my opinion, my humble opinion. I don't know, but Heather, what did you think about it?
I think that you and I might have had a very different experience with this film. To be quite honest, coming from this, I'm going to come in from two different angles. One, from a comic book angle, there was a lot of dirty done to several different characters, and I'm actually not too happy with how certain characters, one of them being Adam Warlock, we could have done. The Sovereign was done dirty. I think that they were just done dirty. So from a comic book perspective, I'm kind of disappointed in some of the aspects. And I'm actually going to relate from a more critique point of view. This was a very emotional film. There's, as both of my counterparts have said here, you will need the tissues. This is something that's definitely going to pull at the tears. But I think that one of the big things that this film did, that I'm going to harken back to Wakanda Forever, did very well as well. It tugged at those heartstrings more than gave us a good plot. The story was not cohesive. It was broken down a little bit. One of the big points about is Adam Warlock. The Sovereign was a very small piece of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but we were getting that opinion that we could have gotten a lot more of the Sovereign and Adam Warlock within this one, and it was just right over our heads, and it was too fast, it was too slow, it was missing elements within the film. It was a great emotional roller coaster, but I think that we missed out on what could have been a really, really great story, especially for this being James Gunn's swan song in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kuya P, what about you?
Oh man, you just got me thinking a little bit on that one, Heather. Like, I can't disagree with you on it. I really enjoyed this film. I had a lot of predictions, like I think all of us, in a way, with what's going to happen story-wise. I know I myself as a creative, like, oh, okay, after this, they should do this and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of had it planned out, and I'm actually happy that it didn't play out how I had in mind, because you don't want things to be predictable. You want to be entertained and have fun on this ride. So I enjoyed this film. I thought it was great. It tugged on the heartstrings. But then with what you just said, though, Heather, I can definitely agree that they probably had a different story in mind for Adam Warlock, how that was going to play out, and just different things. I know when we attended the press conference like a week ago, my key question was, whose decision was it to kind of focus on Rocket Raccoon? Although my question didn't get picked up, I visually wish I still want to get that answer. Why this for James Gunn's quote unquote swan song to the franchise, to focus on Rocket? I think having watched the film now and everything, I think, it just kind of brings the family together. We dealt with loss and everything. So maybe it was an easy out. I don't know. Again, that's like a more depth, storyline kind of conversation, but I definitely can't disagree with your points in regards to how, maybe it was quickly tied up just because of we all know that James Gunn is leaving. And that's what I think the biggest thing for me watching this film is, like, God damn it, James Gunn knows these characters. He knows how to give everybody their time, but this felt so much like a swan song. But at the same time, and like, so going back to the point where the predictability nature of it, I'm sorry if I'm like all over the place right now, but like, I could have sworn, and I think we had conversations like, oh, Drax is going to die because we know Batista's leaving. This character is probably going to die. This, that, love that. But shit, they didn't die. Now I think I'm getting into spoilers, and I apologize, y'all. But fuck, I'm fucking up our shit. But what I'm saying?
That is perfect. That is perfect, Kuya P, because now we could get into the nitty gritty, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get into the nitty gritty of it, and that was a great segue to get into the nitty gritty. So at this point, there will be some spoilers, but continue with your thought. Okay, we just let people know, like, now we're getting deeper into explaining what was going on and what we really, really liked about it and what we really thought about it. So spoiler alert. Go.
Okay, thank you for that, Glenn. But I'm going to still try and be careful until you and Heather get into spoilery-ish. I'll try and be careful, but I love this film. Now I'm like overthinking myself. I'm happy all my predictions didn't come true. My biggest thing was, James Gunn, don't leave us. Can we work out a deal with DC?
He's not leaving us.
I need more Guardians films, y'all. I think that's where I'm gonna stay there, because I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid, dude.
Glenn, take it back from me. Take it back from me.
It was a perfect segue, because we are going to go a little bit deeper into it, because there is so much to like about it. And Heather, what you said actually did trigger some thoughts in my mind, and it made me realize why I fell in love. And I was like, I love this movie so much. Like, there was so much heartbreak in it. You know what I mean? There was like sadness in it, and I, found myself once again crying over Talking Raccoon and Talking Tree. But I loved it. But then also there is what you were talking about in terms of like the Adam Warlock and the Sovereign of it all, which was almost played to kind of like comedic effect or whatever, as opposed to actually like getting kind of like deeper into like those characters and have them really interact with the Guardians. I thought that the character could have been a little bit more grounded. I know that what they were trying to do with him, like he was kind of like a Vision type character who was like, just kind of born, but they never really explained like how he was just born, yesterday, or just created and just came into existence. They just kind of like threw it out there, and you're supposed to assume that he was just born yesterday, or just so that's why he's kind of aloof and all this other stuff, which was kind of a weird play for it, because I thought he was going to come in super strong, super like, you know what I mean, like ready and capable or whatever, and you didn't necessarily get that. I a lot of times I found myself trying to figure out like what his angle was, you know what I mean, like what his motivation was, what is like emotional, like what is kind of like how he was trying to play it. I thought it was cool, but I have said this before when we have done Marvel reviews, like actors in their first iteration of a Marvel film are usually finding their footing, and they don't have the emotionality or like the way that they want to play the character down to a science. Like now, Chris Pratt, Rocket, Gamora, they kind of have their play down to a science. And when you're first coming into like this big high budget movie, you're kind of like, what do I do? Am I big over like grandiose with my actions or whatever? So I thought he was trying to get into it, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie for the fact that it deals with a lot of self, you know what I mean? Like self-reflection and like self-love or whatever. I saw an interview with James Gunn and whatnot, where they're talking about like the first movie was kind of about son or mother's child relationship. Second one was about father-child relationship, and then this one is just like your self relationship, your relationship with yourself, and it plays through all the other characters, which is why I was so sad about Adam Warlock, because there's no self-reflection in who that character was. He just like pops in the scene. So I brought it all back together when I was talking about Adam Warlock at that point, but it's just like it was just kind of a weird. So I'm totally agreeing with you. Like that part I did not find the greatest, but all the rest of it, Rocket's story and going through all that, I was so engaged in it because I love Rocket so much that I kind of forgot about that until you just said it just now.
Well, but that's going back to what I was saying about emotion. For one thing, Adam Warlock in a way is always kind of at that naive point, even though Warlock's character in the comics is a human, is the evolutionary element of the perfect human, which the Sovereign is trying to do in the cinematic universe. We did get to see the start of this in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in that final credit scene. But what this is kind of that Indiana Jones isn't actually needed in not Temple.
Raiders of the Lost
Raiders, right. Yes. He's not really needed in it. Same with this one, other than
True.
one really big important moment for Adam. This movie didn't need him, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 kind of made it that this was going to be his big moment, his big time, and you could have literally had him not in this film and it would have been almost the same film. But this also goes to the benefit and the power of having emotion. And one big thing that James Gunn always does, and great in every single thing he does, is the soundtrack. You have an incredible soundtrack that drives your emotions. It drives the story. It drives where you're going. So when I say that I was disappointed in the story, I never said that I was like disappointed in, I had fun in the movie. I'm disappointed in the plot because I think that there was a lot. I think that they had a great thing going in 1 and 2, and we completely lost it here. But emotion isn't very important. It just was very clear that it covered up some of the flaws that were there in the film. But I'm always going to say his name wrong. I'm sorry. Chikwadi Iwuji, who plays the High Evolutionary. Apparently, when he was reading the script, he listened to like classical music. And when James Gunn was like, "What do you think the Evolutionary would listen to?" It's like classical, like very deep, thought-driven music. So that's why it was in the movie. That's why it was in the movie. One of the things my husband said, who luckily enough that we were able to get him in, was that he's like, this movie was a lot more music-y. Like he literally used the term music-y than the last two. It's because the music was driving how you were feeling, how you were going, and it literally took you more into the story. So you felt yourself. So one thing you did is you felt everything Rocket was feeling through every single scene that he was telling his story. And that's a good origin. You can't go wrong with a good origin. That's why those comics are always so good. It's an origin is an origin, and they're very emotional, and they're very, very pivotal. I don't want to drive away from, we've literally seen James Gunn make an incredible Guardians of the Galaxy movie with an incredible story. Where did that story go? We missed out on incredible opportunities. Like the Sovereign, who seemed like a badass in Guardians, even though we got her for this, the High Sovereign, even though we got her for this little itty bitty bit, she was angry, she was mad, she was frustrated. And if we're talking about spoilers, the moment that she saw the High Evolutionary, she became like this little bitch. I'm like, girl, you gotta stand up for yourself. Jeez. So like, it's once again, it's. I enjoyed the movie. I had fun. Bring your tissues, absolutely. I don't want to go past the point that we missed out on so much of the plot. There could have been so much more done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to kind of stay in this train of thought before we get into like things we really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So I to just encapsulate in a little way, Heather, you weren't too fond of Warlock's portrayal in this, in reception with Sovereign and all of that. So if I could toss it to you, Glenn, if we could just like, what did we not like the most? Or well, Heather really didn't like how Warlock was brought in. Glenn, what did you not like the most? If there was anything you didn't like, if you could have one thing you would have liked more focus on or whatever, with this kind of being the last Guardians film we're going to see in a while.
I think the problem was the relationship between what Rocket was going through and the High Evolutionary, and what Star-Lord and Gamora and Nebula were going through. That piece was so like kind of woven together well. Like you really get the feeling of like Rocket was, he went through some shit when he was being created, and Star-Lord is in love with this person who doesn't know him anymore, and Nebula's like the sister who's trying to like keep it all together. I thought that was all done so well. And then when you have like Drax and Mantis, they're kind of just like hanging on, trying to figure out where they fit into this all these like great kind of stories. So I to Heather's point, I feel like that was like a missed opportunity for it. You know what I mean? Like if like Mantis and Drax somehow had like a connection to like the High Evolutionary, and thereby like a connection through Adam Warlock, like that could have really driven that third leg of the story much better, because what they did with the third leg was kind of like all over the place. And then you had like Nathan Fillion coming in some weird fat suit and all this other stuff, whereas all of that I felt like was very like fluffery, you know what I'm saying? Like it was musicy and fluffery on that part of the film, which I thought could have actually been like, that could have been tightened up. Like that is the part that I think I would have liked to see better. And of course, we're not even talking about Groot, who I think, Groot is like Rocket's best friend, and he's come up, and now Rocket's kind of like literally his dad. That's what he said when he like died in Infinity War. Spoiler alert, of course. When Groot was dusted away, he said, "Dad," like that's what he was like, was calling out to Rocket. And to not have like, to see Groot have like some emotional connection to it, like I thought that was a missed opportunity. So those are like kind of the three, like Groot, Mantis, and Drax, I thought could have definitely had more in the story along the lines of what the Sovereign and Adam Warlock probably should have had, because that's what we were all thinking. You know what I mean? Like you're all thinking of, you're going to get this kind of like rounded out thing of the Sovereign from that last what's it called, the lead in or the trailer, what is it called? The end credit. Yeah, the credit scene. You thought you were going to get more from that, and there was no payoff from that. And that's where like I said, I just felt it lacking from Mantis to Drax to Groot. Like they were just kind of hanging on to these other stories, which are super strong. Like I thought that those stories were actually like very strong and held things together and kind of drove the story and made me like really enjoy it. But that's the part that I was kind of missing there. I don't know. Am I off base? Are you guys? Does anybody agree?
All right. So I got you, Glenn. So for me, first off, and like I said earlier, I enjoyed this film thoroughly. But then when you broke down a little bit with your thoughts, Heather, it made me rethink again. And I'm like, yeah, realistically, when I take away the shine and the joy, because I love the Guardians characters, yeah, they definitely, I'm sure they had another story in mind. I think we all thought this was going to be Warlock focused, Sovereign, more of a build-up, a little bit. To me, I had a whole different story in mind. In regards to the predictable nature, it's going to be focused this way. We're also going to kill these certain characters off, but that didn't happen. So thinking about it now with this convo, which I love, and that's why I appreciate you both when we have these talks, is okay, yeah. They probably, I think, studio-wise, had the Warlock thing bigger in mind, but because Gunn is going to leave, we also know we wanted to do a Rocket Raccoon thing, cram those together, make it into what we got. I think and this is the end result. I'm happy with it, but at the same time, we can see where, things maybe didn't fit all the way. So that's a critique, if you will. But I'm still happy with what we got. Another critique for me is Star-Lord, Chris Pratt. I have a certain feeling towards Chris Pratt as a human, but his character evolution, what I really would have liked, and now this gets into spoiler territory, we saw him go through everything. We enjoyed his character. Well, speaking for myself, I enjoyed his character arc, but I think towards the end of this film, there's a situation, and as you see, I'm being very careful, Heather and Glenn. I know you think I was going to say something. There's a part where we think we could let him go. I think we should have let him go. I wish we could have ended there, but instead, there's going to be more to his story without being Guardians films in a way, and I don't like that. So that's, to me, if what I would have liked it more to swan song him out, and we continue on with where we're going to go with the rest of the franchise. Without Gunn, which, you know what, biggest critique. I take that all back. What I just said. I need James Gunn back. Work that license out. Work with him. I need more Guardian stories. He knows these characters. So that's it.
To add on to what you were saying, like, are you all satisfied with the explanation of why Star-Lord doesn't die immediately when he's in space? Like did that? Because I felt that they explained it, but then they took it away. So now I'm back to being confused again. You know what I mean? Like, so
you feel me in a way.
He's part celestial.
Right, but they took that away when his father died. Like, that was the way that they killed Ego.
He's still blood.
Well,
blood.
Well, that makes sense, but I feel like in the story, the way that they explained it was like, oh, he no longer has the god powers or whatever. Like,
it was weird how that all played out at that.
Right? Am I missing?
No, I agree with you, Glenn. That's why I was like confused. I'm like, first off, when that moment happened, I was like, oh shit. And I think you if you remember, Glenn, I was like, yeah, are they really gonna do this?
Yeah.
Now? I did not expect that moment to happen. And then to it not pay off, because I'm like,
yeah.
So like,
I was just like, what the fuck?
This is another example of, I think that's just, there was something off with the storytelling, because I really think that the reason that happened, just coming from a very like taking a moment, stepping back. I think that one of the things that we didn't see that they were trying to do with Adam in that sequence is they were trying to demonstrate that it was going in slow motion. They were going, look how slow Adam is going to get there. This is happening very, very, very slowly. Oh, now that Adam's here, it's going back. So I think, like, in theory, that moment is supposed to be only a couple of moments, and Adam gets there very quickly. So I think that but the thing is that that's just an example of something was just a wee bit off with the storytelling, because, like, the moment before where they're saving everybody, when their final moments with the Sovereign, his Rocket's acceptance of his life, of who he is, that's an incredible, incredible moment in the film. And then you have just this weird transition in the story where it's like, well, now I'm questioning everything.
Yeah.
Oh, but okay, well, maybe they did this on purpose, but you can't tell the way that they're doing it.
Yeah. I agree with you. There's definitely that was a weird moment storytelling. and with along with that moment with Warlock and him, it felt like we got to give Warlock one more thing to make him be more, to make him more of a hero in this, because they,
Right.
He didn't have, they just needed like one more moment for him, I feel. And it just didn't fit.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is like, isn't like the whole reason why we're there is because Adam Warlock shot Rocket in the chest.
Hello.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
the whole reason that we're here is because you shot him in the chest, which I thought was just, you know what, though, to fix the film, I think it would have been a very simple fix in this respect. Like in this one part, the thing that we're talking about with Star-Lord, like there should have been a moment, because the High Evolutionary is trying to play God. There should have been one moment where Star-Lord says, I actually am a god. Like you know what I mean? Like I am like the child of a god. So I am like, godly or what, like he said, like he would just have to say that one line that again, like kind of cements his like what his power kind of is. And then at the end of the movie where he like is crystallizing up, you remember like, oh, he's not just human, because in the last movies, they definitely said that like, oh, with ego dead now, like you lost your god powers. Now you're pure human. I'm pretty sure that was kind of how it was like played out. Heather, am I wrong? Because I feel like that's what happened in 2, wasn't it? Like once ego died, like Star-Lord sacrificed himself or something to like, he sacrifices godlikeness by killing his dad. Wasn't that what happened? Or am I wrong?
I think that there was a concept that he had power that was given to him, but we have to remember, let's look at this from a comic book perspective. Blood is different than power. You can be a mutant and not have great power, not have great abilities, but you're still a mutant. So my thing is, it's one of, he is this partial character. He is this partial human already. And that gave him, I'm going to take this back to that terrible moment at Happy May the 4th and Space Mom Carrie, wherever you are, I hope that they are bowing at your feet. But that moment when she like flies back to the damn ship because she now has Jedi abilities and she can breathe in space. It's like, what the, I think that, there's some
Right.
there's some moviness to it, and it's either that it's slow motion and that's why Adam was moving the way he was, and or the fact that he has the blood of a celestial.
I'm cool with that explanation. I just feel like we shouldn't be the ones who are telling people it. Like they should have did it in the movie, right? Like,
but that proves my point. That proves my point that it's like, why do we have to step back and be like, why are they changing it at this weird moment? Why was it not demonstrated better at an image level?
Yeah, and to go back to what you said, there's a chance to be able to do that with the Sovereign and Adam Warlock earlier in the movie, instead of kind of making them this like funny, funky character and then killing off the Sovereign, like, spoiler alert again, damn, my bad. Like, kind of post haste. So I don't know. That was but again, I really enjoyed it. I was very happy with what we got. I felt like the story of Rocket, which, because I'm sure we're going to get to what we did like about it. I'm just going to jump into it.
Yeah, lead us into what we like the most. What did you like the most, Glenn?
The story of like Rocket and the High Evolutionary, man, like just, because I am a new father, that moment of Rocket sitting on his lap and like saying like words and learning words or whatever, oh my goodness, that like, I'm tearing up now. That was so emotional. And then to have him go through that arc, that part was really great. And it was so great that until we started speaking right now, Heather, I hadn't even thought about the flaws of what was going on here. But I really did love what they did in the movie so much. It's just like that, the little mistake or the little thing that we're talking about now with, Warlock and the Sovereign and all that. It was like, it's something so minor that could have been like fixed. But it does leave like a bad taste in your mouth. And to Kuya P's point, like that's the thing I didn't like the most. But what I did like the most, oh man, the Rocket's youth and growing up and, having friends and all. Oh man, that pulled on my heart. I don't know if it's because I'm a new dad or whatever, but that just, it tore me up. I don't know. What about you guys? What's your favorite part of the film? I guess Kuya P, what do you think of it?
I'm with you on the Rocket stuff, man. And additional cast of animal characters that, you know, were in the cages next to him. Those relationships, that bonding moments that were happening when they first drop Rocket in there and they try to make him feel better. Oh, tears, buckets.
Yeah.
Like, and then just repeatedly throughout the rest of the movie when those characters were together, that I just love that friendship. And then when they get, spoiler alert, you know, taken out, I was crushed. Yeah, that part, I think we can all relate to that. And those moments too when they were learning, Glenn, and like you said, sitting on there, and then what also was just, I think, so good with the High Evolutionary and Rocket, when Rocket figures something out and demonstrates and explains to the High Evolutionary, and then there's the whole thing now that, how the hell did you know this? How the hell did you know this? That was so good. I liked how that all kind of portrayed out. But then it led to what we, you know, the whole theme of this whole film, and coming to get him because you broke the chain, you broke the cycle. You were the one, you know, shout out to Keanu. He was the one. Rocket was the one that changed it all. And that was so good. That was so good. How about you, Heather?
I feel like I'm the one that's being all negative and everyone's pointing.
That's all good, Heather.
I want to point out,
don't hurt him. That's why you're Heather.
The emotions are a good thing. Like Wakanda Forever, I think we didn't get to do a full review on it together, but one thing we did talk about was the fact that emotion is very important in a film. It's very, very important in the film. We need to also talk about it from a critical point of view, because that's literally why we were given the option to see these early. But it's one of those so one of my favorite elements, I just had it in my head. It's completely gone.
What you like? What you really enjoyed?
Yeah. So I really liked how Cosmo turns out. Doesn't make me happy because he in the comic, she in the movie would not do that. But Cosmo and Kraglin's relationship is absolutely adorable. And Howard getting his moment. James, you never upset me with Howard. You never upset me with Howard. I am so happy that my Howard was there. That was a great game. I want to be at that game of poker. I'm just going to say it. But I love their dynamic. It was a great dynamic. It really showed off. And Cosmo finally got her day, and it was really, really great to see her there. But it was all the animals. All the animals got a great moment. And I'm going to say this is going to go in a completely different comic direction. We actually are having this conversation. A lot of us are having this conversation on Twitter. What this movie proved is that we are ready for a We 3 movie. James, you are now at DC. You can do Vertigo. Give us We 3. Bring us that cast of characters that you brought in this film. Make it into the most emotionally and mentally destructive movie you can. You proved that you could do that with this movie. Give us We 3.
Glenn, are you familiar with We 3?
I'm not familiar with We 3. What is We 3? Explain.
So We 3 is the one comic that I have ever cried in public about. I was reading it at the store, and a customer walks in, and I'm going, how can I help you? Like, I was a mess. And it was one of those where it had all of the horrible, horrible, horrible things, the animal cruelty, so one of those things that we got that was very well demonstrated in this movie was science often goes to something that is lesser to begin with. And that's really, it's a really pivotal part at the end, I think, that when they save all the animals. And We 3, what they're doing is the government is testing incredibly dangerous high tech on animals. And at the beginning of each issue is a wanted poster of a missing pet. And that's We 1, We 2, We 3. Or it's 1, 2, and 3. And if you haven't read it, it's a classic Vertigo title. It's a DC. Oh my God. It's $14.99, $16.99, I think now. Go pick up We 3 if you want to be, and 4. I'm sorry, there's 4.
Oh.
If you want to be wrecked, it'll wreck you.
After this movie, all that. So when we saw, I can't remember, Floor the bunny. When we saw Floor, I was like, he's going to do it. He's going to make We 3. He's going to make We 3. He's going to make We 3. Like you, James Gunn, I'm talking to only you right now. Make We 3, please.
But it's so sad though. Like, yeah, it's so good. But I think it helps create awareness about animal cruelty. And just like this, you know.
And that ending's going, if you think that this movie destroyed you from an animal, like, heartwarming perspective, the ending of We 3 is what will kill you, because you're like, I'm so happy. I can't.
So those are the things we love about this film. Where else do we want to talk real quick and quick? I really enjoyed Nebula evolution from when we first saw her, and then the dynamic between her and Gamora. That difference, and again, this is not the Gamora we know and love because she passed. Although this Gamora is quite interesting, though, I gotta say as well, from how her evolution is in this, from coming out of it. And I like that we didn't put her and Star-Lord together. Oh, because we had to. No, we're two different people, and her stating that to him repeatedly, I'm a different Gamora. You know, what did y'all think about Nebula, Gamora? You know, just kind of more evolution of some of these characters.
I think that's a good example of what Glenn was saying at the beginning about self-acceptance. Gamora came into this point where she's like, I'm never going to be the one you want. You need to accept me. And she made him understand, while she also accepted that there might have been more to her. And Nebula is straight up going, I was never that person that I always thought I was. I'm going to now take on a leadership role with an entire planet. I'm just going to call it a planet because that's the closest thing to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really like the evolution of her as like a sister as well, you know, to Gamora, and really kind of take, because I feel like people thought the turn in Guardians 2 was like very fast. You know what I mean? Like it was a very or was it where was the turn for
it was 2.
Was it 2? Yeah, like the turn for her in 2 was like very fast into like, okay, now we're like, you know, buddies. But it does make sense as we've seen more of the movies and like the arc of like where they were as children. And you know, even getting that scene, I believe it was in Endgame, when Gamora is talking about how like, oh, I was just trying to survive like the next day, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe was that too, where she was like, I was just trying to survive, I didn't realize what was happening to you. Like, was that too as well? Yeah, it's like, I was just trying to survive the next day. I was just trying to be a survivor. I was trying to be as strong as I could, and I didn't realize by beating you every time it was like you were getting like punished, which I think is like, you know, we're talking about these powered assassins of space, but it's like they were children at that time. And if you've had like a sibling or whatever, you'll never think about how like you trying to be the best that you can actually like damage or hurt their like self-worth and whatnot, and like not being aware of that. And that's like a very like sibling thing to be like, you just kept like achieving, and then it made me feel like I was worth, and then I tried. That's why I got as good as I am trying to achieve, because I was always kind of like in your shadow and trying. So I don't know, I really like what they did with that. Again, I think that part was so great in this. You know, it was just fun, man. I wish all the characters in and around Guardians got the same treatment as we did with those, but you know, it's an ensemble cast. It's really going to be hard to get emotion into every storyline, but you know, they did a good job with Nebula and Gamora and Star-Lord to a lesser extent.
All right, so as we get closer to closing this out, now I want to just do another spoiler because I want to talk the ending of this film. So here's another super spoiler. Man, this closeout, you know, we thought a lot. Well, I'll speak for myself. I thought some death was going to happen. You know, deaths didn't happen, but we know Gunn is leaving, and this is going to be the last Guardians film we're going to have in a while. We had a couple of end credits. I don't know if there was another end credit that you got, Heather, in difference to ours, because I was talking to other people that screened the film early, like we did, press screening wise. There was some different enders, apparently. So I'm not sure. You know, you and I, Glenn, were the same one. I don't know what all you got, but the story's continuing. But in a different way, and we had some finality. Can we just talk about that finality at the end of this and where we're going from here? And, you know, my feelings about Star-Lord. But That's so. Heather, lead us off, closing us out, and talking maybe into that, with this being the last Gunn film and the last Guardians film, if you will, in a while.
Sure. I think that if they all had to end up the way they did, which is, it was a very comic booky ending to me. Everyone gets to walk away and we get something different. They're going to go to somewhere else. Mantis has become like a cult classic hero. Like, she's become like one of the most popular characters within the franchise, which is, hey, rock on to her. I'm curious to see where she's going to go. Drax and Nebula staying where they are on Nowhere. Not too happy that Cosmo isn't the protector of Nowhere, but that's just me. But I love Cosmo more than I guess Gunn does. Gauntlet Throne. I think that what they did is they left it into a point where there can be more movement, there can be more access. And if Batista decides that he wants to come back, he can come back now. If there's an open door policy that's been made here. I do think it's weird that we're going to have Star-Lord back on Earth, but at the same time, we also have the X-Men, and we know that there are always things that happen with Star-Lord and a couple of those X-Men characters. So,
ooh, interesting. Okay,
got you, Glenn.
You know what? I am excited to see what the next iteration of Guardians is. I like this one. I like, how everybody meshed together. I thought that it came together pretty well. Outside of I think Drax and Mantis probably needed like more to do. So they kind of felt like a hanging Chad, so to speak, like kind of left out a little bit of the situation. But I will be interested to see how. Because I love Rocket. Rocket's like, that's my dude. So seeing him take control of the Guardians and then going on, I think that's going to give us like some really fun stuff now and into the future. So the good thing about Rocket and Groot is we don't ever have to worry about them being recast. You know what I mean? You just have to match voices, and Rocket and Groot can be the same. They can always be in the film. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to change out. Or you could change out those people and still, still feel great about it. No hate to Bradley Cooper. He's done an amazing job as Rocket. I'm just saying it's not as jarring if the voices are a little bit different. I love Bradley Cooper. He's my man from Philly, man. That's my guy.
I will say something real quick. I'm sorry, Glenn, I don't mean to interrupt. One thing that I did like at the end, did y'all catch the reason that we understood, this is a very, very end spoiler, the reason that we understood that Groot said, I love you guys, is because we as an audience have learned to understand him. Did you catch that? It's not that he said that, it's we now understand him.
Oh, that's
Did you catch that?
Cool.
I was curious why we understood him.
Yeah.
So that's what. Oh wow.
That makes it so much better. Heather, I love you. I am Groot. I am Groot.
That's lovely. Groot. That's really lovely.
I thought I know that was really dumb, but I was just my husband was just like, he kind of just went, and I'm like, I get it, because now Gamora understands him. What's the next evolution? As an audience, we understand him. So.
Yeah, dude, that is so perfect.
Now I can't wait for when I finally watch this with my wife and daughter, because they haven't seen it yet and they're dying to see this. Now
you can tell them that it's like,
don't that's gonna crush. I know, and they're gonna be like, oh, because now my heart's crushed right now too. Heather, you just thank you for that. I love that. I love that. That's that notion.
Yes.
That's so good.
That is so perfect. I feel like that's a perfect way to end this review, because that's the cherry on top. Thank you.
All right, so let's get up out of here. That was our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. Again, I just want to say, let's petition James Gunn to come back. Please. Can we? Because I need more Guardians films. I need this Rocket Raccoon led Guardians. I want this story. And actually, I had a question for you, which I know we're trying to sign off, but are any of the new cast of this new team comic worthy? Are you interested in that too, Glenn? We have characters we know in this new Guardians team, but there's a young girl that
is interesting. I want to know who she is.
You don't. So is she not comic-y?
She might be, but we don't have that definition of who she is.
Okay.
So we need to know more of the character before I can be like, oh, she's that one.
Yeah,
I don't think Cosmo is the guardian of nowhere.
But
I'm sorry, Nebula. Take a seat, honey.
That was, I just had to tell you, Heather, this is where I was like, I love you, Glenn, but where I wish you were there, because I was like, Heather, is that a character from the comic? I wanted to like ask you that in the moment.
My husband asked me the same thing. Y'all, I know a lot about comics. I'm not perfect. The character did not come up to mind. I am happy other comic people tell me, hey, look, but I will say this. My nerdiness did win me a hat. So, you know.
Hey, you deserve it. You just definitely deserve that.
All right, so let's sign off out of here. But yeah, I wanted to tell you that as well. Like, I love you, Glenn, but I wanted to Heather, tell me, is this that character?
You need Heather, that. You need that in your life.
Yeah. Heather, how can the people talk to you, all things Guardians of the Galaxy and everything else?
Sure. If you want to talk to me about how we should actually be petitioning Gunn to do the Amalgam Universe and We Three, message me at NerdIsAHeather on Twitter and at HeatherIsANerd on TikTok and Instagram. As a side note, we at the NRW support the writers during this strike. Pay your people.
I'm so nervous for what is going to happen to phase 5 with this writer strike.
Support the writers first.
Yeah, but if you want to talk to me about the writer strike and how to support, actually, I'm not involved in the right. But if you want to just sound off with me, because I am in support of the writers, you can catch me at levelupcomedy.com. Glenn Levels Up on Twitter, Glenn Lawrence Comedy on Facebook and IG.
All right. Thank you to my Drax, my Nebula / Gamora. I don't want to say I'm Star-Lord. I'm the Cosmo, because earlier Glenn said I was Cosmo in another recording. So I'm your Cosmo. I hope you don't mind this Cosmo, Heather, because I know you love your Cosmo. I'm Kuya P. You can follow me at The Legend Kuya P on Twitter, TikTok, IG, Hive, and of course here with Heather and Glenn all the time at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. Those are our feelings, opinions, thoughts, love on Guardians. Let us know if you feel the same in the comments below. Yes. What's going on, world? It's your boy Kuya P, NRW, and I'm with my man Glenn Lawrence, Levels Up, and I got my man Santa up here.
Hey, what up?
We just came out of the press screening for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Without spoiling, bro, what'd you think of the joint?
I think they should have called it Volume 11 because they turned that joint up.
Turn it up. Sam, what you think, man?
Oh, I actually really enjoyed it, to be honest with you.
Fire.
Real surprise. The second one kind of let me down, but this one, it had all the emotional feels that you need.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say.
They got me tearing up again.
Yeah, man. I'm just gonna say this: that James Gunn don't miss, bro. He knows these characters. I'm sad that he's heading over to DC, but at the same time, DC needs that love. But man, I want him to come back, man. Can you do both? Marvel, DC, can you make that work? Because
crossover.
He knows these characters, bro, and it was just amazing. Fire, fire, fire. Check out the full review coming soon to the NRW, and of course, I'll be talking about this on WTOP-FM Radio. Tune in, y'all.